Angela Rayner, the UK's Deputy Prime Minister and one of the most prominent figures in the Labour Party, is facing a storm of criticism after it emerged that she had made several inconsistencies in her testimony about her professional past. When a senior politician fails to provide a consistent narrative about her career, the public is right to ask, if she's not honest about her past, can we trust her in the future? This is no small matter. It's a question of integrity and moral leadership. Welcome back. In this video we'll discuss, and also take a look at, the latest news from every region of the country. But before we go, please like and subscribe so you don't miss our next videos and our growth. Angela Rayner has long been proud of her journey from a teenage single mother to one of the most powerful figures in Britain. However, when her career claims were compared, a series of discrepancies emerged that shocked the public. In her official Who's Who profile, Rayner claimed to have worked in the care industry from 1998 to 2005, a total of 7 years. However, in an emotional speech in 2020, she claimed to have spent 14 years in the care industry. And yet, in another interview, the figure jumped to 17 years. 3 different figures for the same career. This was clearly not an accidental mistake. But what is the truth? According to Freedom of Information, FOI documents, Rayner only worked at Stockport Council from 2000 to 2005. That's 5 years. Worse, Lord Ashcroft's new biography reveals that her actual time in the care sector was only 3 years, with the rest of her time spent on union activities, though she was still paid for her care work. This raises the question, is Rayner deliberately exaggerating her past to impress voters? When sources are compared, it becomes clear that she cannot provide a consistent story. A national leader who cannot remember the exact number of years she has worked in a key sector is either negligent or worse, a deliberate lie. In politics, honesty is not an option. It is a duty. When Angela Rayner, who holds one of the most powerful positions in Britain, cannot provide a clear story about her professional past, public trust in her and the Labour Party is immediately shaken. Some argued that she might have just misremembered, but who would confuse 3, 7, 14 and 17 years? It was no accident. Others argued that it was a deliberate strategy, exaggerating her experience to project a hard worker image that would appeal to voters. If true, it was an unacceptable betrayal of public trust. The problem is compounded by the fact that political opponents have begun to exploit this vulnerability. One Conservative MP bluntly stated, if she can lie about her career, what can't she lie about? And it's a sobering question. It's not just Rayner who's being affected. The entire Labour Party is being dragged into the storm. A senior leader caught lying about his or her background is not only embarrassing for the individual, but also for the party. Moderate voters, the people who decide elections, are starting to question the integrity of those they once trusted. And with trust in politics increasingly fragile, even the smallest lies can be the last straw. The Angela Rayner scandal is a stark reminder that in politics, honesty is not optional. It's fundamental. People elect leaders not only on merit, but also on the belief that they will be represented by honest people. When a politician starts to tweak the truth to fit the story they want to tell, that is when they lose the respect of the public. Rayner has 2 choices: either publicly apologise, clearly explaining the contradictions, or continue to hide and watch the trust of voters continue to decline. If she chooses the latter path, the consequences will not only be devastating to her personal reputation, but also to the entire Labour Party, especially in the context of the increasingly tense upcoming election. People deserve the truth. They deserve to be represented by honest people. And most importantly, they deserve explanations, not stories. Coming up next, Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK, is not sitting still. He has been blunt in his criticism of Sultana, calling her comments inciting and almost inciting violence. As the debate turns to free speech and the line between protest and intimidation, a pressing question arises. Who is really defending British democracy, and who is trying to silence political opponents? In a recent speech, Zara Sultana accused Reform UK, Nigel Farage's party, of repeatedly blaming Muslims and migrants to distract the public from the real issues. She then compared Reform UK to the National Front and the BNP, two groups known for their racist and far-right activities in the UK. The statement quickly made headlines, with many calling it a ridiculous and dangerous comparison. More than just words, Sultana also called on the public to take to the streets to protest a Reform UK event scheduled for March 28th. Notably, on social media, she shared an image of Nigel Farage being crossed out, an act that Farage called encouraging hate. In a scathing statement, he said, "We are having a political conversation, not a battle." But such words from a member of parliament only add fuel to the fire. It is true that dissent is normal in a democracy, but when dissent turns into harsh accusations, accompanied by calls for protests that restrict free speech, the line between legitimate criticism and incitement begins to blur. And that is the problem. Sultana has every right to disagree with Reform UK. But comparing political opponents to racist organisations only heightens tensions and divides society. While the controversy surrounding Zara Sultana has intensified, Keir Starmer, who talks about unity and responsibility, has remained completely silent. Farage did not hesitate to challenge Starmer. Keir Starmer needs to speak up. Will he let his MPs incite hate without consequences? But despite the pressure, Starmer appears to have chosen to avoid commenting or offering any action. This is not the first time the Labour leader has been silent on controversial statements by his own MPs. In fact, Starmer's repeated silence has raised concerns that he is adopting a double standard, quick to criticise his opponents, but turning a blind eye when his own party members cross the line. If Starmer can't control his MPs, how can he govern a country? One political commentator remarked. The issue is not just about personal credibility. When Labour MPs are free to make divisive statements with impunity, what message is it sending to the public? You can say whatever you want, as long as you're on the right side. In a healthy democracy, that's unacceptable. With Reform UK looming, security concerns are mounting. Sultana's call for protests, combined with the viral image of Farage's face crossed out online, raised the prospect of violence. "We are ready for dialogue, ready for debate," Nigel Farage warned. But when protests are fueled by hate speech, things can spiral out of control. Free speech is a pillar of democratic society. People have the right to hear all views and decide for themselves who is right and who is wrong. But when an MP uses his position to call for the censorship of a political opponent, that is no longer dissent. It is an undermining of democracy. Stopping others from speaking is not protest. It is censorship. Amid escalating tensions, Starmer's role has become even more important. But instead of calling for calm and dialogue, the Prime Minister has chosen to stay silent. This raises the question, is he leading or simply avoiding? One analyst was not shy about criticising. A real leader would speak up. Starmer, hiding behind empty slogans. Leave a comment below, like and subscribe for the latest news.